just kept hitting three after three after three.
Yeah, they opened the game. I think Page hit like 4 threes in the first few minutes, and we knew he's a good shooter. When he gets going, he can really get going. And, we started picking up on him. Then other guys whose numbers don't exactly, say they're three-point shooters, are knocking them down. They're getting bounces and offensive rebounds. And when a good team like that, sometimes it's their night. And tonight was their night. They played their game, and it's just tough. Real tough.
You took their punch. Did you counter as well as you would have liked to have seen?
Yeah, we took that punch and got down. I think we cut it to like 10 or so, and I think the bounce Yogi could have saved it and went out, and that kind of turned the tide a little bit. And next thing you know, off is the rebound, and it's tough when they get those things going. It's a tide turner.
How much of a shock factor was it when you witnessing these guys make shots that they've been known not to make, especially from three-point range?
Yeah, if they shoot like they shot against us tonight, they're definitely going to be successful all the way to Avery. But it's a talented team. They're Division I players, guys that you don't treat as three-point, step them off the line shooters. They're knocking it down, and they're getting that penetration. And the big men are playing the way they play. It's tough to stop. And we took a couple punches from them, tried to come back, we just didn't quite have enough to overcome it.
You had a year of eligibility left, decided to come to Indiana. Any regrets?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think this year is so much has happened this year. A lot of good stuff. I keep reiterating that this team. Although I've only been here for like 8 months, and I feel like it's been for like 3 years in a good way. Just the bonding that this team's had, just everything we've been through coming together, and winning the Big Ten and Sweet 16 run. I have no regrets. It was awesome.
I guess at what point did it kind of begin to sink in? You begin to realize that you guys won't be able to come back?
Somewhere towards the end, it's you get pulled out there with me and Yogi walking off, and Coach Crane just loves his guys so much, and coaches with so much passion just because he cares about the guys. And Yogi, who's been here 4 years and gone through thick and thin with Coach, see him go off and get his name chanted off. He deserves that. He's done so much for this university, and it's given blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. I was here for 1 year, and I had a blast, and it was just it was great. I really enjoyed it.
I noticed you guys were coming off, you and Yogi. Coach kind of stopped you for a couple seconds on the sidelines. What was he saying to you guys in that moment?
Just saying I love you. Thank you for everything. Pretty much just being really appreciative and positive.
What's next for you?
Who knows? Not really sure. Kind of still in this moment. Not really looking too much into that. But I'm gonna keep pursuing my masters.
You got a nice nucleus coming back here for next year?
Yeah. There's a lot of talented guys here. The freshmen grew up tons, and to be able to get Rob and James back, it's gonna be huge. And not having them it's tough. They're guys that were I don't even know how many points they averaged together when they were playing together this season, but missing big pieces like that's tough. And, we've overcome it. We won the Big Ten without both of them at some points, and came back to get us a little bit tonight. Would have been nice to have a little more depth. We got we're playing average height out there is like 6'9" at times. We got Juwan playing the point. It was tough, but it's definitely nucleus coming back. It's gonna be great. Coach is gonna do what he does, and really bring this team together. I think this year is something to go off of. I think we had a really productive year. The guys got better, and next year you can only go up from there.
Robert said he wanted to play, but coaches, is it because of bone bruise and ligament damage that they said no? Could you tell he was wanting to get in there?
Oh yeah, Rob's such a competitor. I think he just, I would have liked to, kind of push the doctors away and get him in there, for selfish reasons. But overall, you got to think about the student athlete. It's just, it was probably the best thing for him. I'm not really in the loop with all that, but obviously we got some of the best doctors here ever, so I trust their opinion.